Good afternoon, and thank you for joining JMT Consulting for our Simplify Your Nonprofit Financial Management with Abila MIP. We are going to give people about 1 more minute to finish getting logged in, and then we will get started. Thank you. All right. Again, welcome to JMT Consulting's webinar on Simplify Your Nonprofit Financial Management with Abila MIP. Dan Wharton will be hosting the webinar today for us. If at all during the presentation you have a question, please make sure to use the questions portion of your toolbox, and we will answer those at the end of the webinar. We are also recording this webinar today and will email it to you tomorrow. And with that, I will pass it over to Dan.
Thanks, Missy. All right, everybody, come on, come on. Welcome to JMT Consulting's webinar today, highlighting MIP fund accounting, made by Abila Community Brands. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to review a couple housekeeping or logistical tidbits. First, this webinar is currently set up for one-way communication, meaning any audience members cannot currently be heard by the group. Should you have a question at any point, and by the way, we want questions, please feel free to ask it in the chat box, found about 2/3 the way down in the GoToMeeting control panel on your screen. We may not get to the question immediately, but we are monitoring and all questions will be answered by the end. And also, before I forget, we will be reaching out to all attendees. If you're like me, you're going to come up with questions after the fact and may panic. Don't fear. We will be reaching out either tomorrow or Monday, or maybe just the early part of next week to follow up with you. Get your thoughts on what you saw today and follow up accordingly. All right, goals for the webinar. What we'd like to accomplish today in broad strokes is really twofold. We want to give you a better, more complete picture of who JMT is, what we do, and why we do it. We want to give you a glimpse of how Abila or Community Brands' ERP product, MIP Fund Accounting, might be the perfect fit for your growing nonprofit. And in the end, we're going to open it up for what I hope is a lively and spirited Q&A session. Inside our MIP practice, there's really two primary account managers, myself and Brendan Sohan. My counterpart is Brendan. He's the other account manager in our MIP practice. He works with organizations who are not only currently using Abila products, but he also works with prospective clients who do not currently own MIP or are just simply new to JMT. His territory is the Northeast NE corridor in the good old USA. The states include New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, go Patriots, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. Brendan also gets the pleasure of working with the clients who are in the tropical islands that are U.S. territories. He's been with JMT for a little over 8 years now at this point. Loves what he does and loves working with our customers and adopting their missions. Prior to working with JMT, I worked directly for Abila in a very similar role, except that I focused on existing clients only. Now I have the opportunity to work with net new clients as well. Notice next to my title it says ROW. It says Dan Wharton, Account Manager, ROW. That stands for the rest of world. The bulk of that is going to be everything outside of the Northeast, but we absolutely have international customers. So for those of you who are operating nonprofits with multiple locations, not just domestic, it would be helpful to know that we have customers from Canada to Guam to Afghanistan and Tanzania, and we're not making that up. I'm speaking a little bit on Brendan's behalf here, but we really very much enjoy being able to work with new and existing clients. And the reason I bring this up, because really the benefit is extended onto you, the client, because after your implementation, you'd actually still be working with us on the day-to-day, on ongoing basis throughout the relationship. Yes, there are other team members, but it's important to note that the folks that help you get up and running are the folks that continue to work with you throughout. So I think that's a huge value add and very different from other resellers that I've encountered. First thing really on my agenda here is to help you understand who JMT Consulting is. And we take a look at this heat map. Founded in 91 by Jacqueline Tissot, that is the J and the T portion, to serve a nonprofit community. JMT is an independent vendor agnostic firm that works only with nonprofits. And that part is certainly worth remembering, so I'm going to repeat it. JMT exclusively works with nonprofits. We, in our 25 plus year history, do not, have not, and will not entertain exclusively a for-profit client. And as such, over those 27 years, we've gained about 2,000 clients across the nonprofit spectrum. Company itself is a little over 30 individual professionals. We have main hubs in New York, Texas, and Nashville, Tennessee, though we have plenty of folks who are scattered throughout the U.S., typically consultants who are on site working with customers on their implementation, on their training, or special projects. So what's the focus? Again, we only work with nonprofit customers. These clients encompass every nonprofit vertical, from museums, human service organizations, opera houses, federally qualified health centers, FQHCs, professional organizations, membership organizations, philanthropic funds, Native American tribes, municipalities, and really everything in between. Being vendor agnostic means the JMT is not tied to one specific vendor. We're not tied exclusively to Abila or community brands. However, that's where we tend to focus. Because of this, we offer many different types of solutions that solve relatively small problems as well as major problems. And again, everything in between. One thing we can stand behind with absolute certainty is JMT is the largest technology consulting firm in the U.S. dedicated exclusively to the nonprofit sector. As I mentioned a couple slides ago, Abila and MIP are not the only company or product JMT represents. Just so happens that MIP is rock solid, super capable, powerful, and easy to use fund accounting platform that tends to fit the lion's share of our organizations out there. But it doesn't mean that it's the end all be all. To that extent, you'll notice some logos on the screen right now: Serenic, Intact, Blackbot, AccuFund, Dynamics. These are some of the past and present solutions we'd offered in the ERP space. Being a full service outfit, here at JMT, we do represent add-on or third-party applications to help augment the core MIP system to get it just perfect for your organizational needs. Some of these areas might include purchasing systems to allow your team to go fully electronic, completely paperless with your purchasing process. We also offer timekeeping systems, expense management systems, budgeting systems, automated AP, and a whole lot more. I think that really what I'm trying to drive at here is that JMT takes the client need approach first, and we do that right out of the get-go. Being agnostic, not tied to one vendor, solution, or idea really allows us to hunker down and uncover all of the client's needs, sort through them, talk through them, prioritize them, and then architect the correct solution based on our findings. And this really prevents us from architecting a one-size-fits-all solution, which we're really not big fans of over here. This is really important, why I think working with a certified partner like JMT is the best decision a nonprofit could make when evaluating a major change like an ERP migration. So planning is key. And if you've ever had the pleasure or displeasure of going through an implementation or migration of one accounting system or another, you've most likely picked up a few tips, tricks, and rules to live along the way. Well, there are a few things to consider. Picking the correct partner for your needs will most likely be the big deal breaker for you. Software is, in our eyes, literally just a tool. That's it. Think of accounting software like the building materials that you'd use to build a house. Sure, all the materials have been delivered, but really they're useless and they're just sitting in a pile until someone picks them up and starts building. Digging a little deeper, your team you use to build the house will make all the difference in the world for your home and family. Same rules apply when talking about an ERP migration. Again, software is just a 17-digit alphanumeric download key. It's how you efficient. It's how efficient and comprehensive the partner is that makes the difference. We see it day in and day out. Some of you may have experienced using the software publisher for implementations in the past. Seems like a solid, sound, and logical decision to go through with the software publisher for the implementation. No, not always. Software companies do tend to do one thing really, really well, and that's make the software. They see this as money opportunity to make additional money, and so they try and play the role of implementation specialists. That's not always a good case. Here at JMT, we very much dislike those characteristics of an implementation. We pride ourselves on fixed fee, guaranteed, efficient, wholesome, and comprehensive implementations. So let's take a look. Give me 1 second here. Sorry for the pause, folks. Software, why are we recommending MIP fund accounting? Well, let's start by showing you a few things. MIP has been around since the early 80s and has really always been marketed to 501c registered organizations. 6,000 strong customers, very vocal, very helpful, very sharing, all of whom are willing to share what they've learned, spell out what they've learned, and demand more from the publisher if that happens to be the case or the need. It's had a few facelifts over the years, but at its core, it's really maintained its structure. Therein lies the strength of and one of the many reasons many nonprofits continue to implement MIP. It really is just a rock steady solution that, again, has seen a couple changes, a couple introductions via cloud, but again, at its core, it's remained strong and remain the same. For some of you who are actually looking at MIP as a potential replacement now or later on down the road, there is a third-party purveyor of or aggregator of data. That website is trustradius.com. TRUSTRADIUS. We have no affiliation with them, but having come from Abila itself, coming from the publisher, we would always rely on TrustRadius to provide customer feedback, and they do a great job of detailing the good, the bad, the indifferent. Read through the 500 plus reviews of customers that are raving about the solution. And I'm not kidding, 500 plus customers who are just all raving fans of the solution. Yes, some of it's subjective, but really there are plenty of ways in which MIP demonstrates how it's easy to use. You'll read through customer reviews, you can go through a demo with us, but you can very easily allocate across several funds or create distribution codes. You want to run a year-over-year cost analysis for employee benefits. You need to find a bunch of old invoices and just have a few minutes to do it. As the auditor is breathing down your neck, everything that I just mentioned can be done within just a few seconds and a few simple clicks. There's some important characteristics. Can you track donor restrictions on net assets? Of course. Is there full support on traditional fund accounting and interfund balance? Yes, of course. Can you easily segregate expenses for functional expense reporting? Yes, of course. Report on any number of fiscal calendars easily and accurately. Of course, this is FASB compliant in every sense of the term. There are some upcoming changes in revenue recognition. MIP has been on top of that every step of the way. I think at its core, regardless of any face changes ever tried to go through, the one thing that they are adamant of is that they will never ever make a change that could potentially jeopardize the security and stability of the platform itself. And that security and that comfort is paramount, first and foremost, for the folks over at Abila who are publishing updates and making changes to the software. There's a robust audit trail. Every user who steps into the application, there's a great way to monitor and track and see when information is being changed, how it's being changed, when it's being changed, by whom, things of that nature. Some of you in the audience are currently using QuickBooks. Let's talk a little bit about how MIP is structurally different from QuickBooks and why it might be time to upgrade, especially if you're facing some changes or going through some major growth. Let me draw your attention to the bottom of the slide, because the linear method is exactly what we don't mean by table-driven. This is a classic example of a linear chart of accounts. This is just a small example, but customers using linear method would often call us and tell us that their chart of accounts are 50 pages long. These long archaic strings are comprised of every possible combination of code, but really therein lies the problem. It's cumbersome to maintain, difficult to isolate the specific piece of data you're trying to report, difficult to translate and pass on. And do either of these things help tell a good story? No, they don't. MIP is all about telling a good story to your board, to your executive leadership team, to your program managers, to your account management team. Something else we hear quite often is how customers are able to grab the data they want, but a bunch of stuff that they didn't want to come with it. So they used to dump all their data in Excel and then try and manipulate the data the way they wanted. We're going to tell you the same thing we told them. With a table-driven chart of accounts, those problems go away. They don't exist. MIP allows you to characterize your segments, match the report data to the story you want to tell your board, and hit print. MIP's report writer gives you a starting point in the hundreds of pre-built reports, and then allows you to expand those pre-built reports by using custom tools so that you get the exact report that you want. Again, all this is done inside of MIP. You're not manipulating the data on Excel outside of the system where human error comes to be a potential issue, so on and so forth. A simple example of what a table-driven chart of accounts can produce is, let's say you want your budget that spreads across company 2, fund 200, account 10, department 10, programs, so let's say 100 and 200. Well, I just did a few simple clicks inside of MIP and built the report that I want. There are flexible deployment options. I mentioned a little while ago that there is now a cloud option for customers who have a geographically dispersed organization, or maybe just have a specific need to get into the cloud. Abila has spent quite a few years determining whether or not they want to be exclusively a cloud host or maybe an on-premise. I'm happy to report to you that they, even after the recent acquisition of Community Brands, they will continue to offer customers what they want, and they can pick as to how they want to use the software. So what I'm saying to you is, it's not an either or. You have the ability to choose. MIP does have flexible deployment options. We can tell you not every nonprofit is ready to make the move to the cloud, and they may not ever make the change. The great thing with MIP is that you have the freedom of choice. MIP is very easy to use, maintain, and host on your own server or a rented server if you happen to outsource your IT to a local company. The more traditional offering comes with a standard items, software, annual maintenance, technical support, upgrades, and such. The alternative is to subscribe to the software, have MIP hosted in their cloud, and all you worry about is maintaining access to the internet. If you're not sure which one's good, right for you, let us know, and we can share with you all the tools that have been created to help you make the right choice. We're going to get an opportunity to look at some functionality within MIP. I don't have access to a virtual sandbox today, so I'm going to rely on screenshots. The reason I'm mentioning this is just to set the expectations appropriately and let you know that if you do want to take a look at the software, you can very easily ask us, Brendan or I, to set up a demonstration. We do have a virtual sandbox that we can give you the keys to. What I mean by that is we'll give you a login, a website, a username, and a password, and you can go in and play with these tools and the software on your own. If you're looking to go and expand upon that and want to actually enter into a free trial, we can look at that with you as well. So as I said, I'm just going to be showing screenshots throughout the presentation, so we won't see everything that MIP has to offer. The one thing I want to do to emphasize is that each and every organization can create a chart of accounts that is unique to suit their specific needs. And so you can have as few or as many segments as you want. You can name them whatever you want. You can assign them any code you want. One thing we'll do is help you decide which codes work best for now and in the future. And as with any software system, there are these little gotchas, and JMT can help you navigate through all of them. First tab I want to show is the Grant Administration tab. A lot of you are funded by grants, restricted and otherwise. This is a function that is built in MIP and allows you to manage grant-specific information. Things like indirect cost rate, award amount, dates, demographics, contact information, grantor requirements. And you can even upload documents and attach them to the specific grant. This allows you to manage many of the grant requirements without requiring you to buy a third-party tool. This is a big reason why MIP is so popular amongst organizations who are heavily relying on grant funds. Take a look at how to enter a transaction and start off with accounts payable. To get there, I simply use a navigation panel and click on a module that corresponds with the action that I want to take with an MIP. If you're not sure about where you saw that, we saw it back here on the left-hand side. And as you can see, we have accounts payable, accounts receivable, allocations, budgeting, encumbrances, fixed assets, and so on and so forth. Now, MIP is a very modular-driven application. There is a core package that gives you some of what I previously listed. It's up to you to grow into those other areas. Not all organizations produce invoices. Not all organizations want to manage their own payroll. For those organizations that do want to bring those two functions in-house, you simply buy the module and implement the solution with someone's help. This allows you to grow into the solution, but it really just proves that MIP is a true end-to-end solution. How robust you want to make that really just depends on again, your specific business needs. But now I want to take a look at how to enter a transaction. Let's start off with accounts payable. Again, just go to the navigation panel, click on the module, and I'm there. Something to note here is that it's up to you to decide which module you need. Again, if you don't have many fixed assets and can easily track it in an Excel spreadsheet, maybe it's best that you continue to do that. It's only if and when you get to a point where you are spending gobs of time calculating depreciation and managing maybe too many fixed assets that you actually want to go ahead, pull the trigger, and purchase the additional module. Again, that's something that you want to work with work with us on, and there are specific tools to help you gauge that need. Getting back to AP, we first want to click on the navigation panel, open up the option tray, and notice there are notice that there's going to be I'm sorry, folks. Notice that there's going to be hot links, drop-down menus, things of that nature. But what you'll come to see is that there are panels that in which the system prompts you to help you work a little more efficiently. So notice that there's option trees that follow a logical workflow. If you're starting at the beginning of a transaction, then pick up from that point and enter a new transaction. If you need to go back and open an old one, very easy to do. Click on the drop down and pick up where you left off. Okay, the new screen opens up and prompts to enter a new ID. MIP thinks in terms of batches, and each batch is a session. Note that you can customize which users can access the screen, which fields are deemed required, and you can even pick which color is used for each field. MIP really is that customizable. Here's a user tip. If you hit the plus sign at the beginning of a session ID field, MIP will automatically populate the next available number in the sequence. You hit tab a couple times, and the status and date fields will also auto-populate. So the reason I give you this tip is to let you know that there are little hotkeys that you can use inside the system to help you with data entry. At this point, I can choose to enter a description, or I can leave it blank. Once I decide, then I can hit start. On this screen, here's where you start to convert that paper invoice to a digital invoice. And you do that by referencing a few numbers in the hard copy or whatever you have. AP user tip number 44, tabbing through fields makes for light work. MIP will auto-populate sequences where they are registered. Another tip, MIP will recognize the beginning characters of a vendor name, populate a list, and prompt you for the right one. Once selected, MIP will auto-populate their information into the default terms, address, and type fields here. You'll then select the appropriate codes and values for the rest of your transaction. Of course, you have the ability to create multiple rows for each transaction. The system will let you know via a warning message if you're not in balance or if you're trying to use the wrong offsets. Also note here that if you created a distribution code, you could very easily use a hotkey to auto-populate all of the lines of codes, all of the offsets, and it'll be done just within a few clicks. The transaction detail would then be complete. There are 7 different distribution methods in MIP, including percentages and units, and there's no limit to the amount you can create or manage. So again, allocate by payroll, allocate by expense, allocate however which way you see fit. Let's take a look at the budget module. This is always a fun one. Really, the best place to start is with an actual budget worksheet. The budget worksheet allows you to either build a worksheet from scratch, or if you're like many users, you probably already built one inside of Excel. Great. Regardless, MIP will prompt you for a name, and if the name of the worksheet can't be recognized, meaning it's new, MIP will automatically launch a setup wizard. Again, logic is already built into the software to help guide you through the process. I remember Microsoft Office used one that had a little dancing paperclip. Some of you guys might remember that. But what it did is it helped build presentations. Well, this is very similar. So the setup wizard is exactly what that little paperclip used to be. It will literally guide you step by step throughout the process. And it's not only just in the budget, but also requisitions, sales order entry, accounts receivable, things of that nature. The wizard will ask you some questions, and then you'll build a worksheet. Things like, do you want to use units or dollars, start date, numbers of cycles, duration, what should be included in your comparative analysis, revenue and or expense accounts, things like that. The wizard will then generate a worksheet based on the answers you give. Here's an example of what I created inside of the Sandbox, and you've got a whole bunch of information. And even though I can't show it to you and prove it to you, at least today, this whole budget worksheet took me all of 5 minutes to create. And if you want to see how quick you could do it, engage Brendan or I, and we will be more than happy to take a sample of what you have uploaded in the system, and then we can show you what to do with it and how fast it is built, managed, and distributed. Now that I have my data set, I can go into specific cells and do things like, I don't know, add a comment. I can highlight a particular line item and lock it in. I can also modify it on the fly. I can take a particular value and alter its value within the budget worksheet. I can increase or decrease by a specific amount. I can bring in an allocation. I can rest values to 0 or to a different amount. I can also add notes, set a status, or adjust the spread. The really cool thing is that if you change the spread, like it did in column AG here, the worksheet will automatically spread that adjustment account evenly across the entire year. So again, one thing I did in this example, put in a spread alteration, and it automatically calculated for the rest of the year. I don't need to hunt and peck for information. Side note, MIP offers special user licenses so that program or account managers can interact with this online worksheet. You can control what they see or what they don't do. But really, my idea is to get them engaged. And it doesn't have to be just program and account managers. You can absolutely include an executive director, a board member, a CFO, anyone who's engaged or needs to really be part of this process. But anyone that's bugging you for actually budgets, budget versus actual information, I'm just using that as an example. Anyone that's bugging you for information really can have this special license to go in and either enter budget information or pull reports. And that's really what ultimately we want you to do, is get everyone engaged, get everyone involved. There's a lot more to show you, but for the sake of saving time, we'll pause and quickly move over to reporting. So I've shown you how to enter an expense and how to create a budget worksheet. Now you can take a look at how those might look on an actual report. An MIP comes with literally dozens and dozens of canned reports. The whole idea is you find a starting point and then customize the reports based to match or suit your needs. When you click on the report manager on the navigation panel, a slew of options are presented, and this is where MIP begins to ask you what you want to do with your report. You want to create a new financial statement. You want to create a new task list for AP. You want to standardize a reporting format. You want to distribute reports on a recurring basis. To some people, dozens and dozens may not seem a lot, but there are hundreds of actions that you can take. So let's start by creating a financial statement. When you click on financial statements, you'll see a list of options pop up in the process manager. And by the way, this is the place where you can save your favorite places inside of MIP. It makes navigating that much easier. Let's see what might be possible with a statement of revenues and expenditures. So here's an example statement of revenues and expenditures by month. If I right-click on the report name, I get 3 options: edit, run, or add to favorite. I want to show you how to build a report, so I'm going to click on edit. I'm initially brought to the setup screen here. If I click on the content tab, I can grab just about any information I want and throw it on this monthly R&E report. Once I've selected the items that I want to include in my report, on Grant Geo, I can start to build my format. I can make my selections and then hit start. You may notice that MIP keeps track of things like width of your report. allows you to pick and choose what data you want to emphasize. It allows you to select a cell format. You can group data onto pages. The moral of the story here is that you should not be building reports only in Excel. You want to generate a report, you want to create a story, do it inside of MIP. I guarantee that you'll be able to do what you need or what you're doing now and do it inside of the system. From here, you do have the option to export it onto Excel, or you can create a PDF. I can email it, I can drill down. You may have noticed that the drill icon in a previous slide, but if you click on that, you'll get all the way down to the transactional detail. I can save it from here, I can share it, and then I can distribute it to a team member, a boss, an entire team, or I can just, again, save it for later. There is also another tool that's extremely handy that, if you're one of the folks that do quite a bit of reporting, routine reporting, there is a scheduler module within MIP that allows you to automatically distribute certain reports at certain times of the month. So if you do have you want to set a schedule for report distribution, you can inside of MIP. Again, we could spend hours going over the rest of the reporting functionality within MIP, but we won't. And but I will call out things like the analysis report, where you do GL analysis and generate comparative trial balances. If you decide to purchase the IR modules, you can report on age receivables and customer activity. Financial statement formats allow you to standardize your reporting formats, which comes in handy as you add new segment codes or keep up with new state regulations and grant requirements. The report binder is where all MIP users can go to access all saved reports. There's an additional feature, again, called Scheduler, that comes extremely in handy, especially for things like bank reconciliation. Maybe that's something you want to do on a daily basis. Maybe that's the first thing you want to tackle in the morning to see what hasn't been resolved and reconciled. Well, great. Let's just automatically have that sent each and every day as soon as you log in, and you're done with it, 5 minutes later. This last one is for larger organizations and government agencies who are required to micromanage security or access rights. There's a advanced security module that restricts access at the account level. This also ties into those special user licenses that I mentioned earlier and ensures each user can only see what they're meant to see. So I talked about adding program managers and account managers. The advanced security module would make sure that program manager would only see their programs. Like I said, we could spend hours on this, and if you decide that you want to go further, well, just let Brennan and I know, and we'll help you out. For now, we're going to pause and take a brief look at some of the other modules MIP has to offer. Thank goodness for energy drinks. Anyway, allocations. Let's take a look at the allocation module. At a high level, it will allow you to do stuff like retroactive allocations. Maybe throughout the month, you're accruing administrative overhead costs. For example, let's say utilities and rent. At the end of the month, you want to allocate those out to those expenses to the programs in your organization, but you base that allocation methodology on something like relative revenue of each program to the overall revenue of the program during that month. And that determines how much you allocate out. All of this can be set and defined in the allocations management module. You can even create complex payroll allocations should you decide to purchase the payroll module and keep that functionality in-house. Now, if you decide that you want to outsource payroll, don't need to name names here, but if you decide that you want to outsource payroll, do so. That's fine. We'll help bring in those allocated costs and expenses using just industry accepted best practices. And we can do that really with any sort of third-party functions, not just payroll. If you're outsourcing some of your AP or AR, we can, again, import that information to help make life easier. MIP dashboards. This is a relatively new module, only because this particular iteration is brand new. Dashboards have been something that has seen probably the most facelifts since I started 4 or 5 years ago. You know, I think one of the main contributions is why you see so many facelifts, just because there's so many cool tools out there. So MIP, again, they listen to customers, and customers are constantly asking for key performance indicators, stories, you know, how do I make information actionable? So they're constantly processing that information, looking for the latest and greatest technology, bringing it into MIP and wrapping it into the existing solution, so that every time they make a change, you're not having to buy a new module or a new service. It's already baked inside of the software. But again, MIP dashboard, this particular iteration is relatively new, but we're excited really by the initial feedback customers have provided on the new interface. Each dashboard can be customized. Initially, it's going to be role-based customization, but aesthetically, you can go ahead and change windows, change orders, change sequence, change priorities. But for me, the really exciting part is how each role can be designed and designated a unique set of KPIs. So John Smith happens to work in budget. Well, John has the ability to have his own customized dashboard, or if John is on the FP&A team, then maybe John and the rest of his team want a universally customized dashboard. That's great. Dashboards will more than accommodate that. MIP will also be, again, you're going to see enhancements to dashboards and reports every step of the way. So we're excited to see what MIP produces here in the spring. You know, I'm not going to show any pictures today just because of the complex nature of each one, but I get asked quite a bit, what are some of the other modules that customers add on after they've implemented the core solution? Requisitions is probably number one. You can add a requisitions module, which would allow you to build a paperless workflow environment, centralize the PO process. That could be not only across departments, but across geographic locations for a truly paperless environment. You know, if you're a services organization that just happens to have, let's just say you're a school, charter school, and your teacher wants to take 10 seconds to buy a box of pencils for their classroom. It literally takes 10 seconds. The amount of time that is required for approval process and purchasing and through final requisition, we're talking minutes and not a single bit of paper involved. Fixed assets. That module provides your organization with a powerful tool for tracking assets, calculating depreciation, and automatically allocating depreciation and disposal entries into the GL. I've mentioned payroll a couple times. The step above that is payroll, HR, and electronic timesheets. There's a full set of or suite of solutions directly from MIP. There are also a couple partners that Abila does business with who have provided their own unique set of solutions that are built on MIP's data structure. So long story short, if you wanted to own payroll, manage that in-house, you didn't have a specific need for maybe tracking OSHA or HR certifications, but you certainly wanted to add electronic timekeeping to that payroll system, well, there are partners out there that can give you a unique combination so that you either have payroll, HR, timesheets, and maybe benefit enrollment all in one solution, or you just have pieces of those four purposes. Again, there's more. For today's purpose, I really just wanted to whet your appetite. At this point, would we go ahead and open this up for Q&A. Again, use the chat menu on the GoToMeeting panel. Submit your questions, and Melissa is going to help us get your questions answered.
Dan, we do have one question. How is this compared to Fund Ease?
I'm trying to think if I have personally helped any customers with Fund Ease, and I have not personally done so. Melissa, do we know who asked that question?
We do, and we can follow up with them after if you want to do some
that would be great. If you wouldn't mind, if there is a specific question behind the question, which there usually is, please let us know what the underlying question is, or maybe what the meaning of the question is, and we will certainly get back to you. Abila does have quite a bit of information on their competitors, would-be competitors, or just other publishers in the space, so it won't be hard getting that information and delivering it to you, and maybe having a follow-up conversation.
Perfect. Thanks, Dan. As of right now, we don't have any other questions, but we'll wait a minute or so if people want to ask.
If anyone is wondering about pricing, there is some easy information you could attain from the Abila website. It's only one piece of information, one piece to the puzzle, but if you go to abila.com and then click on their Solutions tab, you will see MIP Fund Accounting. They do advertise their cloud version of MIP, and within that advertisement, there are, I think, 2 or 3 different packages. And they offer 2 or 3 different packages just because they know that there are just some fundamental packages that could be offered to nonprofits of either specific orientation or specific size that might suit them best. So what I'm trying to drive at is, if you're looking for just basic information, go to the abila.com website, get a sense of how they offer the modules, what it might look like in terms of a monthly cost, and from there, let's have a follow-up conversation to talk about implementation, whether or not that particular package is right for you, what could be done to augment it, so on and so forth. So I get that question a lot on these webinars. Anything else, Missy?
No, I think that's it. So if you want to wrap up, we can go ahead and do that.
Well, for more information, Brendan and I will be in touch and get your feedback about the session. Let us know if, 1, you would like more information, 2, you found the session interesting, but don't need anything today, or 3, let us know if you want us to leave you alone. Listen, we understand that there are thousands of reasons why you could be joining today's webinar, and the one thing that it's important to know is we thank you for taking the time out of your day to join, to listen. Hopefully you got something out of it, and we will absolutely respect your wishes, so that when we do follow up with you Friday, Monday, or after, just give us your honest feedback, and we will take it to heart. I think for now, thank you very much. Have a great weekend, and we hope to see you again.